You're watching the 11th episode of the Pinfall with me, Danny Bell, featuring Calumet's head coach, Jim Wadkins, for the second episode of the evolution of wrestling. This is the presentation of Region Sports Network, where the region comes to wrestle. Welcome to the Pinfall. I'm your host, Danny Bell, and we have an amazing guest tonight. We have back one of the best coaches in this area and a knowledge of wealth with everything that he brings to the table. We have Coach Jim Wadkins, and he had a great season coming up this year for his team. But other than his progress with his wrestlers, what he's going to bring up today is from our first episode, we went from basically the Bible to 1980. And we're here now from 1980 to present day, other than the sectionals, because that hasn't happened yet. But Coach Wadkins has really put forth months of effort to put in all this information, and we hope you guys appreciate it. And without further ado, Coach, thank you for joining us for episode 2.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for allowing me to do this. It's been a labor of love, but I wouldn't suggest anybody try to do this and be a full-time teacher and try to coach a team. Now, you apparently haven't been watching very closely because we've been struggling this winter. We've had everything go wrong that could go wrong in a wrestling program, with kids with weight and sin and attrition, but we're still plugging. So we're hoping to get a handful of guys through our sectional Saturday. We've got a couple of pretty good seniors that have had good seasons, but tonight we're going to talk about a bunch of old timers and kind of hopefully take some people down a road of nostalgia in wrestling in Northwest Indiana.
I'm sure we will. I got an opportunity to watch you guys a couple times, and the good thing about watching Calumet teams is you already know what you and your coaching staff always brings to the table. And I'm learning every single time when you think that you guys have to reload, that there's consistently names that are just starting to pop out. And you're like, whoa, I didn't even know about this kid. I didn't know about this. He's got talent doing this. Whoa, where was this kid at? And there's always somebody like that at Calumet. And
that's I hope you get to do that Saturday at Portage.
Hey, that we'll have Sean McMurray there on there, and he's gonna that will already have happened by the time we air this. But
we're gonna talk about Sean some tonight. I don't even know. I don't think I've ever spoken to him, but I know him, so
he's such a good guy.
Okay, we ready?
Yes, sir. Let's do this.
I've entitled this "A Not So Brief History of the Indiana High School Wrestling State Tournament and Wrestling in the Calumet Region. Part 2, the modern era from 1981 to the present. The 1980s. In the first episode, I used a plain gray backdrop with Calumet wrestling arts in black and maroon kind of behind me. It was kind of boring. It was kind of plain. In this second episode, I've tried to upgrade a bit. I've learned to use Zoom a little bit better. I'm surrounding myself with some historic photos of teams, wrestlers, coaches, and venues that I talked about in the presentation. The big backdrop directly behind me is the Ford Center in Evansville. It's the site that hosted the 2024 Wrestling State Finals as the NBA All-Star Game was being played at Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis, the Pacers' home facility. Starting from your lower left as you're looking at this, and moving clockwise, the 1927 state champion Wabash Apaches. And on the lower right-hand corner of that picture is Billy Tom, who won a couple state championships at Wabash and then became the head coach at Indiana, and probably more than anybody else in Indiana wrestling history was the father of wrestling in the state of Indiana. He really started the dominance of some of the collegiate programs, and he really got an awful lot of coaches came through under his leadership and populated the high schools around Indiana. Find my place here. An early high school wrestling meet being held in a squared circle ring there to just above the Wabash team. Southport Fieldhouse, the site of the state finals from 1960 to 1980. The 1980 individual state champions. I wish I was in that picture, but I was not. But a couple of guys that beat me are in it. That was my senior season. Market Square Arena is above that, the site of the state finals from 1981 to 1999. There's a black and white picture there of Brent B.J. Farote of Belmont High School. He was the first state champion crowned at Market Square Arena, and he was the future head coach of the Braves when they won the 1994 state championship as a state championship team. He's one of only a handful of coaches that won an individual state championship and they coached the team state championship during their coaching careers. The inaugural Indiana High School girls wrestling state finalists above me, that was in 2017 at Hamilton Heights High School. Me and Andy Trevino are there with our first girl state champion, Caitlin Clark. Myself and Coach Trevino. Nope, I'm skipping something here. Hang on. Four-time unbeaten state champion Alex Sertzis of Griffith, holding up four fingers when he won his fourth title in 2004. Conseco Fieldhouse, Bankers Life Fieldhouse, Gainbridge Fieldhouse, whatever you want to call it, is in that upper right corner. And it's been the site of the state finals since 2000. The Calumet Region's, Calumet Region's first IHS GW state champ. I spoke about that already. Me and Andy and Caitlin are in the picture there. A panorama shot that one of my former wrestlers took right at the moment when A.J. Fowler took down the young man from Brownsburg to pin him in the state championship in 2019. And if you look closely, you can see it was taken with the backdrop of our Calumet fan section going bonkers in the background. AJ celebrating with Coach Trevino and myself after his come from behind victory when he knocked my glasses off.
That was such a great picture.
I almost lost a $500 pair of glasses that night. So,
oh man,
the IHSAA logo that they put out this year commemorating the girls' inaugural state finals this season. There's an IHSAA information card with a QR code. I don't know if this is going to be big enough on anybody's screen or if the definition will be good enough, but if you can get close enough, you can actually scan that QR code and it'll give you information on how to become a licensed referee in the state of Indiana. That's a great idea if it works. I don't know if it's going to work or not.
Well, we'll make sure we get that from you and we'll put that out for you.
Appreciate it. And the last picture on the very bottom, I didn't even know this picture existed. I found it about 10 years ago in a pile of pictures. It was taken in 1988 at our elementary wrestling tournament. And the two young men in that picture, the one refereeing and raising the hand is Andy Trevino. He was my first state champion about 4 years later, 3 or 4 years later. And the young man whose hand he's raising would have been about 8 years old at the time. He was my second state champion, Thurman Stone. So I've got these two guys in a picture before either one of them won the state championship in a referee and a state champion's pose. Before I begin rambling about the IHSAA state wrestling tournament and wrestling in the Calumet region again, I must loosely define what the term the Calumet region means in this presentation. I don't want to offend anybody or cut anybody out of it. So the definition that I'm using for the region or the Calumet region is the area of Northwest Indiana containing Lake, Porter, LaPorte, Newton, and Jasper counties. Many of you would probably disagree with my definition, but that's where I'm drawing my line. So I didn't think I could include LaPorte and Michigan City and LaPorte County and not pull New Prairie in as well, even though they're really on the outer fringe of the region, but they're included tonight. Okay. I have purposely ignored in any of my discussions of changes in the number of weight classes that were contested over the years, or of any actual changes in the weight class limits. The number of contested weights have changed from 7 to 10 to 11 to 10 again to 11 again to 12 to 13 and finally to the 14 that we have now. The weight classes have changed more often than the number of weights have been changed. The weight limit of the smallest wrestler has changed. It's gone from 100 to 90 to 95 to 103, back to 95 to 98 to 103 to 100 to 103 again, and finally where we're at right now to 106. To avoid all of this repetition, I've merely avoided the topic of weights altogether. We haven't talked about weight cutting. We haven't talked about, because that was going to make it a lot longer. So I've merely avoided the topic of weights altogether.
All right.
In 1981, the state wrestling finals were moved from Southport Fieldhouse to Market Square Arena in downtown Indianapolis. The IHSAA also implemented advancing the top 3 wrestlers from the semi-state to the state finals. This format change would require the use of formats and a 12-man bracket, where the number 2s would meet the number 3s on Friday night, and the winners would meet the number 1s on Saturday morning in the quarterfinals. The quarterfinal losers to the 2 eventual finalists would then have the chance to wrestle back against the semifinal losers from the other side of the bracket. This was the first time a wrestleback consolation was used by the IHSAA in the state wrestling finals since 1949. The 4 losers on Friday night and the 2 losers to the non-finalists in the quarterfinals were eliminated. The 2 wrestleback losers were also eliminated because they were still only awarding and scoring 4 places. The 4 extra qualifiers and the wrestlebacks created more scoring opportunities for non-placers. 4 wrestlers came out of the Friday night matchups to end up winning state championships the next night. This format would essentially remain in place for the state finals from 1981 to 1984. The Delta Eagles had placed 4th in the 1980 state finals with a relatively young team, so it was no surprise to anyone when they won their semi-state and qualified 6 wrestlers to MSA in 1981. Coach Don Patton's Eagles finished with 5 place winners, a 4th place, and 4 state champions, the most since Bloomington crowned 5 in 1950. Delta also set a new state final scoring record with 99 points, nearly doubling the 49.5 that runner-up Chesterton tallied. The Calumet region matched Delta with 4 champions. Jim Pop claimed Chesterton's first ever title. Jerry Jackson won for LaPorte, and Ken Tiroli from Hammond Gavitt and David Lilovich from Michigan City Rogers won their 2nd titles. Pop knocked off former champion Scott Hutcherson of Warsaw in the quarterfinals. Unbeaten Chris Wildeman of Evansville Mater Dei came from behind to tie Richie Diggs from Decatur Central in regulation to send their finals match into overtime. Diggs seemed poised for a win. He was up 3-0 late in the 3rd period of overtime when Wildeman high-bridged back into a defensive pin to snatch victory from the hands of defeat. The first state finals at MSA drew a record crowd of 17,726 spectators over those 2 days, outdrawing the final crowd at Southport by nearly 4,000 fans. In 1982, Patton's Eagles would qualify 7 wrestlers for the state finals. In a much more balanced field, led by 3-time champion David Palmer, they placed 5 wrestlers in the top 4 to defend their title. The Eagles became the first back-to-back champions since Bloomington in the early 1970s. The region crowned 3 champions in John D. Hart from Chesterton, Vince Stigler of LaPorte, and Fernando Trevino from East Chicago, Washington. In 1983, Delta advanced 6 to the state finals and once again placed 5 amongst the top 4 in their weight. They earned a 4th, 2/3, a 2nd, and John Ginther won his first state title to earn their three-peat. The region did not crown a champion in 1983, but Roland Beckham's last Calumet team would prove to be his finest. The Warriors went unbeaten in duels. They went 8-0, and they won 8 tournaments on the season, including the Mishawaka Invitational and the Maryville Semi-State, crowning 4 champions. The Tribe finished behind Delta and Warren Central, finishing in a 3-way tie for 3rd with Indianapolis Cathedral and Lawrence North. Their 5 state finalists and 3 place winners, all 3rd placers, were program bests. Beckham, after a year at Gavitt, coached the Warriors from 1965 to 1983. His teams won 6 conference, 8 sectional, 3 regional, and 1 semi-state title. They finished 3rd in 1983. He coached 12 state qualifiers and 7 state place winners in a Hall of Fame career that included a 130-win, 39-loss, and 3-tie dual meet record. In 1984, the state finals format was modified to rectify the lost scoring opportunities for the semi-state champions that received byes on Friday night because of the 12-man bracket. These semi-state champions, not wrestling, could not score valuable team points. An inordinate number of these champions also lost in their Saturday morning bouts, giving credence to the thought that it was a disadvantage almost to receive that bye by being a semi-state champion. The IHSAA remedied both problems by advancing the top 4 placers from each semi-state and making the state finals a 16-man bracket. This gave every wrestler a Friday night bout, and it gave the semi-state champions the opportunity to score advancement and bonus points that didn't exist before. Delta sent 5 wrestlers to the state finals in '84, including 3 place winners from 1983. The Eagles, led by John Binther, winning his 2nd title, placed 4 with 3 champions to win their 4th title in a row. The Calumet region crowned 4 state champions. Scott Mundell, Maryville, Dave Yeager from Hobart became the Brickies' first champion, and Calumet crowned Tony Smith and Barry Hanley as the first state champions in our program's history. Calumet qualified a program-high 6 wrestlers to the state finals, but lost 3 on Friday night. Smith and Hanley won bookend titles at 98 and heavyweight in their 3rd trips to state. But Brian Buffington's Friday night victory would prove to be the difference for Coach Ken Stegall's Warriors' 2nd place finish. They edged Warren Central by a half point for the runner-up trophy. Tony Smith asked recently retired coach Roland Beckham if he would sit in his corner as he wrestled under the lights for his title. So that night, Coach Beckham got his first state champion as well.
That's awesome.
Hobart's Gary Burkhart, an Emerson grad and an Indiana State wrestler, led Hobart for 14 years, and he won 6 conference titles, 13 sectionals, 6 regionals, and 2 semi-states. His 24 Bricky State qualifiers placed 4th 4 times, 3rd 3 times, 2nd once, and he had 3 state champions. The 1985 state finals had to be postponed a week due to a snowstorm in southern Indiana. On Thursday night, just prior to the original date for the state finals, I took our 2 state qualifiers to see a newly released movie across the street from Calumet when there used to be a cinema here. It had a wrestling theme named Vision Quest. We all came out of the theater fired up and ready to conquer the world. We would receive word early the next morning that our plans would have to be delayed a week.
How agonizing.
It was. Kids were cutting weight and they had another week.
Yeah.
The tourney was also relocated to Newcastle's Chrysler Fieldhouse because the girls' basketball Final Four was already scheduled for Market Square Arena the next weekend. This move necessitated the state finals be run on one day, so wrestlebacks were eliminated. Delta qualified 7 for the state and placed 3 in the top 4. The 4th time was a charm for the Eagles' Craig Campbell as he finally reached the top of the podium after placing 3rd in 3 consecutive state finals. Oof. Campbell was also named recipient of the Mental Attitude Award. Coach Patton and Delta won their 5th consecutive state title, thus tying Bloomington High School and Bloomington High School South for the modern-day era post-1950 record up to that time. In 1986, the IHSAA tweaked the tournament format once again. The top 3 wrestlers from each regional would now advance to semi-state, thus increasing the size of the bracket from 8 to 12. The IHSAA also began awarding 5th and 6th place at the state finals. The quarterfinal losers to the finalists would now advance to the 5th and 6th place bout without a wrestleback match. People weren't very happy about that, but they were tickled about the 2 more medals.
Yeah.
Coach Mike Gable's first state championship with Evansville Mater Dei brought Delta's state title streak to an end at 5. Coach Don Patton's Eagles still managed to take home the runner-up trophy in his final season at the helm. Evansville Mater Dei's Wildcats placed a 5th, a 2nd, and 2 champions to Delta's 2/3, a 2nd, and 1 champion. The Calumet region crowned 4 champions in Jimmy Hines and Trent Cox from Hobart, Tom Majera from Maryville, and Tim Burby of Valparaiso. That runner-up trophy from Delta, I took a group of kids down to wrestle in a freestyle meet early one morning. We got up really early and drove to Muncie to wrestle at Delta. And I'll never forget, we walked in and they had this massive trophy case with 5 state championship trophies mounted on these big wood bases. But their second place trophy they got in '86, they had it shoved in behind them. It wasn't even displayed. It was just shoved in the back, and it had all kinds of dust bunnies and you know, it was not a pretty thing. But after winning 5 in a row, that runner-up trophy wasn't something that they were wanting to put in the front of the display case.
Sure didn't fit well with the scheme, did it?
No, it didn't. In the 20-year coaching career at Lebanon and Delta, Don Patton amassed a dual mark of 167 wins, 36 losses, and 3 ties. His Eagles compiled 5 unbeaten seasons, a 62-match win streak, and they went 96-4 from 1980 to 1986.
Wow.
His teams won 10 Delaware County, 7 conference, 10 sectional, 8 regional, 7 semi-state, and 5 state championships. He also coached 52 state qualifiers, 33 state place winners, 13 state champions, and 2 Mental Attitude Award winners. He was named the Indiana High School Wrestling Coaches Association Coach of the Year 5 times. Today, that award is named in his honor.
As it should.
In 1987, Coach Denny Hayes and his Belmont Braves became only the 4th team in history to win a state championship without crowning an individual champion. They parlayed 6 place winners, including 3 runners-up, 2 fourths, and a 6th to outdistance the defending champion Evansville Mater Dei Wildcats. Mike Frost from Lake Central was the Calumet region's lone state champion and his school's first ever. Gibson Southern's Terry Kissel won the Mental Attitude Award. He won the Seymour Semi-State, and he entered the state finals unbeaten. He lost to the eventual champion in the quarterfinals, which pulled him back in for the 5th place bout. His 8-4 win earned him the 5th place medal. Kissel did all of this without a right leg. He lost his leg in a farming accident at age 3. It's very similar to the story that's being promoted right now. The young man from Arizona State,
Anthony Robles.
Robles is skipping. What's the name of the movie? Unbeaten or Unbroken? Unbeaten.
Unbroken, I think it's Unbeaten. I'm not sure.
I don't know, but I've heard guys say it's a really good movie. So get out and see it.
It is.
I remember watching it. I saw something on Flow a few months ago talking to the guy who portrayed the Iowa wrestler that he beat in the finals, and this guy was actually an Ohio State wrestler. So they've used real wrestling people to make this movie.
Oh, that's the best way to do it. How they do in war situations and war movies too. You might as well make it look real.
In 1988, Belmont and Cathedral were embroiled in a very tight team race. Both teams advanced 2 wrestlers to the finals. Belmont held a 2-point lead before the finals, and Cathedral had an unbeaten Lance Ellis going for his 3rd title. Ellis's 12-4 major decision put the Irish up by 3. Paul Baker's win regained the lead by 1 for Belmont, and for only the 2nd time ever, 2 wrestlers from the top 2 teams were pitted against one another with the team title still up for grabs. Wow. Belmont's Paul Gunsett beat Cathedral's Sean McGinley 8-5 to clinch the 70.5 to 65.5 Braves repeat victory. Chesterton's Keith Davison was the lone champion from the Calumet region. Coach Denny Hayes, Mishawaka grad, compiled 123 and 17 dual mark in his 9 years as Belmont's head coach. And he won 9 conference titles, 9 sectionals, 6 regionals, 2 semi-states, and 2 state championships. Hayes coached 37 state qualifiers, 18 place winners, and 3 state champions in his Hall of Fame career. The 1989 season set a Calumet region high water mark at the state final. The 219 area code put 9 wrestlers into the finals, crowned 6 state champions, and claimed the first title for a region team since Hammond in 1963. The region champs were DeJuan Williams from Gary Wirt, Mark Rosenbaum from Maryville, Omar Martin from Hammond High, Rob Pavletic from Hobart, Keith Davison from Chesterton won his 2nd title, and George Porter from Gary Roosevelt earned his school's first wrestling state championship. Bob Treziak's Chesterton Trojans qualified 5 to the state finals and placed 3rd, 2nd, and 1st. The Trojans revealed to me after their win what the block-lettered BEANS scrawled on their gray T-shirts meant in black Sharpie the next week. I'm sorry. They revealed to me that they couldn't tell. Every time I saw them with these shirts, I asked them what it meant. And they said, we can't tell you until the state finals is over. Well, it stood for beat everybody's ass next Saturday. And I thought it was quite poignant. They were not fancy. They were not braggadocio. And it was a message these kids had sent to one another. And I think that team, I don't think that team won the Duneland Conference. I don't think they won a sectional or a regional, but they won the semi-state and the state championship that year. Because as they got closer to the end of the funnel, it got a little easier for a small group to win, but they were outstanding. They did beans that Saturday, I should say.
Yeah.
in Coach Treziak's 13 seasons at the helm, he led the Trojans to 3 DAC titles, 5 sectionals, 3 regionals, 2 semi-states, 6 top 10 state finishes, including a 1981 runner-up finish and the 1989 state championship. His dual record of 104 wins, 40 losses, and 2 ties included 37 tournament titles, 32 state qualifiers, 21 top 6 place winners, and 4 state champions. An integral contribution to Chesterton wrestling was made by the Duneland Wrestling Club. As a parent, coach, volunteer extraordinaire, Ed Dewberry worked tirelessly for the DWC, hustling kids around gyms all over the place to help make Chesterton wrestling the top-notch program that it became. He could be seen recording stats and making notes on his trusty clipboard throughout the day at tournaments all over the Midwest. During the decade of the 1980s, David Palmer, who won a state championship in 1980 for Muncie South before transferring to Delta, became a 4-time finalist and a 3-time state champ in 1982. And Lance Ellis from Indianapolis Cathedral became the first 4-time state champion in 1989 in 37 years. In his final bout under the lights, Ellis was taken down by Scott Wilson from Rushville early in the first period. The crowd at Market Square Arena was hushed, but he quickly escaped and launched Wilson with a lateral drop that ended in a headlock for the fall. Ellis culminated his perfect prep career with a backflip with both arms extended with 4 raised fingers on each hand. He went 177-0 to become the first unbeaten 4-time state champion in Indiana High School Athletic Association history. The 1990s. The 1990s began with Muncie South claiming the 1990 title. Coach John Smith, a 2-time state champion for Franklin Central in the late 1960s, led the Rebels to the crown with 2 champions, becoming just the 5th former Indiana state champion to coach a state championship team. The Calumet region failed to crown a champion in 90. In 91, Mishawaka advanced 4 of their 6 state qualifiers to the second day and had 3 make the semifinals. The Cavemen clinched the team title when all 3 qualified for the finals. Coach Al Smith's boys finished 5th, 2nd, and 1st for his and the program's first state title. Andy Trevino of Calumet was the region's lone state champion and my first as a coach for the Warriors. Al Smith's dual record was 420 wins, 80 losses, and 5 ties during a 34-year career, including numerous Northern Indiana Conference crowns, 13 sectional titles, 16 regional trophies, 3 semi-state titles, and the 1991 state championship. He also coached 69 state qualifiers, 41 state place winners, and 7 state champions.
Wow.
In 1978, Northern Indiana Conference, in 1978, the Northern Indiana Conference, the NIC, canceled its league tournament in favor of determining its champion via dual meet results. Coach Smith asked his AD to organize an 8-team invitational for the Cavemen to host during the late December holiday break. The Mishawaka Invitational was born. The AD did exactly as Al had requested. He invited 8 teams to the tournament, forgetting to include the host school in the field. The inaugural invitational, won by the Cavemen, was actually a 9-team tournament made up of mostly NIC and Michiana area wrestling teams and a rat tail round. It quickly grew to 12 teams, then 16, then 20, 24, and finally to its current configuration of 32 teams. It started out as a one-day affair hosted in the Cave, Indiana's second oldest active high school gym, dating back to 1924. Today, it's run over 2 days on 9 mats in 2 different gyms. It has evolved into the toughest tournament in the state, playing host to several top-ranked teams and individuals. Coaches use it as a mid-season measuring stick for their teams and individuals in preparation for the upcoming state tournament series. In 1999, upon Coach Smith's retirement from coaching, Mishawaka High School renamed the Invitational the Al Smith Wrestling Invitational, a richly deserved honor bestowed upon one of Indiana's greatest wrestling coaches of all time. After finishing as state runners-up in 1989 and 1991, Lawrence North, under the direction of Coach Frank Svarchkoff Jr., put themselves in title contention by advancing 4 wrestlers to the 1992 state finals. Their qualifiers finished 4th, 3rd, 1st, and 1st at the Newcastle semi-state. The Wildcats got the most bang for their buck by pushing all 4 of these wrestlers into the finals the following week, finishing a perfect 16-0 and crowning 4 state champions. 22 schools were represented in the finals. Coach Svarchkoff made IHSAA history as well by joining his father, Frank Sr., as the only father and son pair to each lead their team to a state wrestling championship. The IHSAA tweaked the tournament format once again by awarding 7th and 8th place at the state finals. The quarterfinal losers to the finalists would still advance to the 5th and 6th place bout, but now the quarterfinal losers to the semifinal losers would compete for 7th and 8th without the luxury of a wrestleback match. Maryville's Dennis Watson and Hanover Central's Roger Blanton won championships from the Calumet region. Blanton was the Wildcats' first state champ. Lawrence North would repeat in 1993, and Svarchkoff would join his father again, now as a 2-time state championship coach. And the region would crown Lee Marks from Hammond and David Maldonado from East Chicago Central as state champions. Maldonado would join a long list of state champions from East Chicago, but he would be the first for the consolidated East Chicago Central Cardinals. David embarked on a remarkable coaching career after wrestling for Bobby Douglas at Iowa State, when he returned to the region for a stop at Bishop Knoll. In 2 years, he led Bishop Knoll to 2 sectional titles, and he coached the state finalists. In his first 24 years, his teams from Bishop Knoll and Maryville have claimed 3 DAC titles, 21 sectionals, 12 regionals, 4 semi-states, and they earned 3 trips to the IHSAA team state finals. They advanced to the semifinals in 2008. His 93 Pirate state qualifiers have placed 8th 4 times, 7th 8 times, 6th 7 times, 5th 9 times, 4th 11 times, 3rd 2 times, 2nd 11 times, and he's crowned 9 state champions.
Wow.
And he's still got a few years to go.
And that's what I keep telling everybody. He's such a high IQ wrestler and coach as well. You could see him progressing through the moves as he's coaching them, as if he already knows his wrestlers that good, and not to mention his roommates with Cale Sanderson. That's pretty cool. And
he's one of the classiest guys you're ever going to meet in our sport.
And all of his family is. They're great.
He's a very high integrity guy. He's a very hardworking guy. From what I've heard, he might be a better teacher than he is a coach. He teaches Spanish at Maryville High School. His wife is a guidance counselor over there. Great family. Get tired of running into Maldonados, but they're classy kids, and they've been great stewards for the sport of wrestling.
Yeah, they have been. I know I'm probably wrong on it, but I feel like they're the most successful family, and one of them, if not one of them, in this area, to the point where their family still at this point does so much that you could put them on the Mount Rushmore of the 2000s, because even the 90s, because of what David has done, started with as himself, and the
Well,
rest of his family, how much they've given back to the sport in this area.
his dads and uncles wrestled for East Chicago, Washington. He and his brothers and cousins, brother and cousins wrestled for East Chicago Central. There are Maldonados in the wrestling room at Bishop Knoll, at Maryville, at Hobart, at not Crown Point, but they're all over the place.
They're everywhere. They're great. That's good. That's a good thing.
His uncle Frank won a regional in 1980, my senior year. So yeah, the Maldonado family is absolutely Calumet region wrestling royalty in my eyes.
I agree 1000%.
Now I've got to find a place. In 1994, under the leadership of Brent B.J. Farote, Belmont claimed the program's third overall title. The Braves, led by three-time finalist and two-time state champ Tim Myers, would help Farote become only the sixth former state champion to also win a state team title as a head coach. Matt Graham of LaPorte was the lone state champion from the Calumet region. In 1995, the IHSAA reshuffled the weights to include a 215 light heavyweight in the upper weight classes. Evansville Mater Dei and Coach Mike Gable claimed the Wildcats' second state title and began an unprecedented streak that would span most of the next decade. Belmont, Decatur Central, and Newcastle were deadlocked in a tie for the runner-up trophy. The Calumet region crowned two state champions in James Torres of Lake Central and Greg Larson of Hanover Central. In 1996, the IHSAA, after exhaustive research and extensive discussions with the Indiana High School Wrestling Coaching Association, changed the state championship format to a single-class team dual state tournament. The individual state tournament would remain unchanged, but tournament team scoring would only be used at the sectional level to determine the 64-team field. The 64 sectional team champions would then compete in 16 single elimination 4-team dual meet regionals on the Wednesday after sectionals. The 16 regional champions would then compete in 8 semi-state duels around the state on the Wednesday after regionals. The 8-team state finalists would then compete on the Saturday after the individual state finals. The first state dual finals were held at Southport High School, with each subsequent tourney being held at Center Grove High School in Greenwood. The IHSAA also added a 14th weight class in 1996 to go along with their new format. Leroy Vega of Portage and Bill Maldonado of East Chicago Central claimed state titles for the region. Evansville Mater Dei would repeat as state champions, with a first and second place finisher in the traditional state final, and by outlasting Newcastle in the team finals 43-21. Portage fell in the semifinals to Newcastle 48-16. Coach Rex Peckinpah and Newcastle were at the apex of their team's success during the 95 and 96 state tournaments. Peck coached from 1982 to 2019, and he won the following titles: 18 North Central Conference, 34 sectional, 14 regional, 6 semi-state, and 2 state runner-up trophies. He coached 89 state qualifiers, 43 state place winners, 6 finalists, and 1 state champion. In his Hall of Fame career, he amassed a dual mark of 1,001 wins, 300 losses, and 3 ties for a 769 winning percentage. The 1,001 victories is still a National Federation High School national record.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, has there ever been anyone close to that?
Well, there's some ambiguous guys that have claimed to win the thing, but they were coaching 2 or 3 teams at the same time, or maybe they had like 4 varsity teams going out every Saturday, and the National Federation has not recognized that as the national record.
When life keeps you busy and you can't get to the store, shop online with Strachan Van Til To Go. Our to-go service is easy to use. Register using your rewards account information, fill your virtual cart, and choose delivery or pickup. Once your order is in, our own Strachan Van Til team preps your order with care. With our to-go service, you can earn reward points and save time and money with our online coupons and weekly ad prices. Life made simple, shopping made easy. For more information or to sign up, visit shop.strachanvantil.com.
Hi, I'm Crown Company's Lantern Man. For years, I've helped your family and friends save on their car insurance. And now I've returned to rescue you from high prices. Whether you have a perfect driving record or a not-so-perfect record. Follow me to the Crowell Agency for immediate and affordable coverage. I'm your insurance superhero. Crowell Companies, insurance professionals. Highland, Merrillville, and Michigan City.
Due after high school? Consider a career with Boilermakers Local 374. As a Boilermaker apprentice, you'll earn while you learn. We offer excellent wages and benefits, and as part of our no-cost hands-on apprenticeship program, you'll learn from the best in state-of-the-art training centers and on the job. Become a union Boilermaker and get on your way to a great career. Find out more, visit www.local374.org or call 219-845-1000.
With electrical services from Economy Electric Heating and Cooling, you can radiate the perfect amount of light and energy into your home. From rewiring and code upgrades to ceiling fans, lighting, security, and more, Economy Electric Heating and Cooling's trained electricians will make sure you can enjoy your home on full power all the time. For a free estimate on electrical work, call Economy Electric Heating and Cooling at 219-923-4441, and you can visit them on the web at 4ajobdoneright.com. That's the number 4ajobdoneright.com.
First home, dream home, forever home. Tech Credit Union has the right home loan for you. Their loan officers could help you purchase a home, refinance your current mortgage, or unlock your home's equity to get cash out for any purpose. Let Tech Credit Union show you why they are the better option for a home loan. Learn more at www.techcu.org or call 800-276-8324. Tech Credit Union is an equal housing lender and federally insured by the NCUA.
Earn while you learn from the best hands in the business. The Bricklayers Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. That's right, this is a paid apprenticeship.
I'm getting an education while learning a trade and getting paid for it.
The thing that surprised me the most about this apprenticeship program is the respect I've received after the proper time and training.
Classes start soon, so apply now. There are training centers throughout Indiana and Kentucky. We are the Bricklayers and Allied Craftworkers for Indiana, Kentucky Apprenticeship. The best hands in the business.
Four Seasons Mechanical proudly serves Northwest Indiana, providing quality, reasonably priced, reliable service. With a quality and comfort guarantee, the professionals at Four Seasons Mechanical offer a wide range of services in heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Whether it's residential or commercial, Four Seasons Mechanical is there 24/7. To find out more, the website is fourseasonsmechanical.com or give them a call at 219-756-7020. Four Seasons Mechanical, your indoor air quality specialists.